Samuel, a retired mailman in Philadelphia, valued his quiet routine and secure home. One late evening, a strange social media post disrupted his peace. It claimed a dark web syndicate was broadcasting local security feeds. The urgent message demanded immediate cryptocurrency to protect his address. Yet, something felt deeply wrong to his observant eyes. The share counter remained completely frozen on a single digit. As shadows lengthened in his home office, Samuel had to decide whether to succumb to digital fear or trust his lifelong instincts. The truth hid behind a static screen.
The home office was dimly lit, save for the pale glow of the laptop screen. Samuel sat in his worn leather chair, reviewing the local neighborhood forum. As a retired mailman, he knew every corner of his Philadelphia district, valuing routine and physical reality above all else. Tonight, however, the digital world felt unusually intrusive. The old grandfather clock in the hallway ticked steadily, a comforting rhythm that grounded him in the physical space. A new post dominated the feed. The headline screamed about a dark web syndicate broadcasting local home security feeds. The text was frantic, demanding an immediate cryptocurrency transfer to secure his specific address. Samuel leaned closer, his brow furrowing. The message pushed a heavy sense of urgency, insisting that hesitation would lead to disaster. He glanced at the bottom of the post. The share counter displayed a single digit, 3. The font was bold, almost mocking in its simplicity. Samuel tapped the screen. The number remained completely frozen. It did not increase. It did not decrease. It sat there like an immovable stone, entirely disconnected from the frantic energy of the text. 3 shares for a neighborhood-wide panic, Samuel muttered, rubbing his tired eyes. He leaned back, the chair creaking in the quiet room. The mailman instincts, honed over decades, told him something was deeply wrong. Real emergencies spread like wildfire, not in frozen, stagnant drops. He closed the laptop lid, plunging the room into deeper shadow. The sudden darkness brought a brief spike of anxiety about his home security, but his practical logic quickly pushed it down. The physical world outside his window remained silent and secure. The oak tree in the front yard swayed gently in the night breeze, its leaves whispering against the glass. "Jasmine?" he called out softly toward the hallway. Footsteps approached, and his wife appeared in the doorway, holding a stack of envelopes. "What is it, Sam?" "Bring me the physical mail log," Samuel said, his voice steady and measured. "I need to check the route notes from today." Jasmine handed him the folder, her expression calm. "Everything all right?" "Just verifying the neighborhood," Samuel replied, opening the log. "The screen tells one story, but the streets tell another." He stared at the closed laptop. The frozen counter was a glaring red flag, an artificial trap designed to hijack his peace of mind. He would not fall for the digital phantom. Tomorrow, he would verify the truth in the real world, step by step, relying on the solid ground beneath his feet.
Morning sunlight poured through the living room windows, chasing away the lingering shadows of the previous night. Samuel stood in the hallway, a steaming mug of coffee in his hand. The digital panic felt distant now, replaced by the solid reality of his home. He walked the perimeter of the house, his slippers scuffing softly against the hardwood. He checked the brass deadbolt on the front door. Solid. He tested the window latches in the kitchen. Secure. He even checked the back door leading to the small garden, ensuring the iron bolt was fully engaged. The physical world was exactly as he had left it. Stepping out onto the sunlit porch, Samuel breathed in the crisp Philadelphia air. The tree-lined street was quiet. A neighbor walked a dog 2 houses down, offering a casual wave. Samuel nodded back. This was his neighborhood. He knew every crack in the sidewalk, every rustling leaf, every familiar face that had aged alongside him over the decades. The dark web syndicate was just a ghost story, a phantom trying to rattle the cages of people who had built their lives on solid foundations. He went back inside and picked up the heavy landline phone from the side table. He did not use the internet. He did not click any links. He dialed the local precinct official public number from memory, his fingers moving smoothly over the rotary dial. The phone rang twice before a polite officer answered. "Precinct desk, how may we assist today?" "Good morning," Samuel said, his voice calm and measured. "I am calling to verify if there are any active security alerts or camera breaches reported in our zip code today." "One moment, sir," the officer replied. A few seconds of typing echoed through the receiver. No, sir. We have no active alerts or breaches in the area. Everything is quiet. I appreciate the information, officer. Have a good day. Samuel hung up the receiver. He looked back at the closed laptop on his desk. He thought about that frozen share counter stuck on the number 3. It was not a sign of a hidden viral panic. It was a broken script, a cheap trick left behind by someone who did not understand how real communities worked. The counter was a liar. He walked over to the window, watching the morning commute begin. Cars moved slowly, respecting the stop signs he had watched for 30 years. The digital world could spin its webs and casted shadows, but it had no power here. His independence was rooted in the tangible, in the brass locks in the quiet streets. Jasmine walked into the room, tying her robe. "Everything okay, Sam?" Samuel took a slow, deep sip of his coffee. "No alerts, Jazz," he said, his voice steady and warm. "Just another phantom trying to rattle the cages."
The late afternoon sun cast long, golden shadows across the living room rug, painting the hardwood floor in warm, familiar hues. Samuel sat in his favorite worn leather armchair, a physical newspaper resting gently on his lap. The house was quiet, filled with the comforting scent of old paper, polished wood, and the faint aroma of Jasmine's baking from the kitchen. The digital phantom from the previous night had been thoroughly banished, replaced by the solid, unyielding reality of his sanctuary. He turned a page, the dry rustle of newsprint serving as a steady rhythm to his peaceful afternoon. He thought about his old mail route, how he used to read the neighborhood just by looking at the accumulated newspapers on a porch or the drawn blinds. Physical signs always told the truth. The front door opened, breaking the quiet silence. Elliot, his neighbor from across the street, stepped into the hallway. The older man looked unusually pale, his usual relaxed and cheerful demeanor entirely replaced by a tight, anxious frown. He clutched his smartphone like a lifeline, his knuckles white from gripping the device so tightly. "Samuel," Elliot said, his voice barely above a whisper. He hurried into the living room, holding the glowing screen out toward the armchair. "Take a look at this. It is on the neighborhood feed again." Samuel set his newspaper aside on the side table. His expression remained perfectly calm. He did not reach for the phone. He simply looked at his friend, noting the genuine fear in the older man's eyes. Elliot tapped the screen frantically, his thumb leaving smudges on the glass. "They know our street. The Post says the syndicate is broadcasting the security feeds right now. Look at the comments. Everyone is panicking." Samuel leaned forward slightly, glancing at the device. The frantic text was indeed there, demanding immediate action and using aggressive, urgent language. But his eyes quickly drifted past the bold red warnings to the bottom of the screen. The share counter was still there. It remained completely frozen on the number 3. It had not moved a single digit. It was the exact same static liar he had observed the night before. "Samuel, they know our street," Elliot whispered again, his eyes darting toward the front window as if expecting someone to be standing on the lawn. "But the comments say they are watching right now." A brief wave of social pressure washed over Samuel. The urgency in his friend's voice was contagious, a digital echo trying to infect the physical room. But Samuel did not flinch. He stood up slowly, his joints popping softly in the quiet room, and walked over to the front door. He placed his weathered hand on the solid brass deadbolt. The metal was cool and unyielding beneath his palm. He remembered the polite officer on the landline. He remembered the quiet, tree-lined streets. "The police checked Elliot," Samuel said, his voice steady and firm. "It is just a ghost story." Elliot lowered the phone slightly, the harsh glow reflecting in his worried eyes. "But the comments." "Comments are just words," Samuel interrupted gently. "Look at the counter. It is stuck. Real panic does not freeze." Samuel walked back to his armchair, picking up his newspaper and smoothing the creased page. The digital trap had tried to breach his home through Elliot's fear, but the bricks held firm. He looked at Elliot, ready to guide him back to the solid ground of reality. The phantom was fading, but the lesson of the frozen number remained etched in the quiet room.
The late afternoon sun warmed the living room, casting long, golden rectangles across the woven rug. The air was still, filled only with the distant, muffled sound of a lawnmower 2 streets over. Samuel reached for his laptop, which rested on the polished oak side table. He opened the lid, the pale glow illuminating his calm, lined face. The frantic post was still there, glaring in the dim light. The The share counter remained stubbornly frozen on the number 3, an immovable stone of artificial panic. He ignored the urgent crypto demand entirely. His finger hovered over the trackpad, moving with deliberate, practiced slowness. He navigated past the aggressive text, ignoring the bold red warnings, and clicked the small official report button tucked in the corner of the screen. A prompt appeared, asking for the reason. He selected the option for fraud and submitted it. The screen refreshed, hiding the post from his view completely. It was a simple action, one that required no panic and no payment. The platform tools were designed exactly for this purpose, separating the genuine concerns from the manufactured noise. "We flag it, Elliot," Samuel said, his voice steady and measured, carrying the quiet authority of a man who knew the streets. "We do not pay ghosts." Elliot exhaled, a long, shaky breath. His shoulders dropped as the digital spell finally broke. He pulled out his own smartphone, his thumb tapping the screen to report the exact same post to the platform. Samuel closed the laptop lid with a solid, definitive click. The glowing screen vanished, returning the room to the quiet warmth of the setting sun. The phantom was boxed away, handled by the proper channels. He took a slow, deep breath, feeling the familiar comfort of his sanctuary returning. He was ready to enjoy the evening, to sit back and let the quiet settle. He reached for his cooling coffee mug, anticipating the bitter, familiar taste that always accompanied his late afternoon reading. But then, the heavy brass landline phone on the side table began to ring. Samuel frowned, his hand pausing halfway to his coffee mug. The precinct had hung up hours ago. Jasmine was in the kitchen, humming softly. Elliot's phone was still glowing in his hand. The phone rang again, a sharp, mechanical trill that echoed off the hardwood floors, cutting through the peaceful silence. Samuel stared at the blinking red light. The digital trap was closed, the screen was dark, but the physical world was suddenly knocking at his door.
The sharp trill of the landline faded into the quiet hallway. Jasmine placed the heavy plastic receiver back onto its cradle, the blinking red light finally going dark. She turned to Samuel with a gentle, reassuring smile, her posture entirely relaxed. "Just a telemarketer, Sam," she said softly, her voice cutting through the lingering tension in the room. The phantom's final hollow echo dissolved into the ordinary evening, revealing itself as nothing more than a random automated nuisance. Samuel exhaled, a long and steady breath, and settled deeper into his favorite worn leather armchair. The late afternoon sun had melted into a warm golden twilight, casting peaceful shadows across the woven living room rug. The tightness in his shoulders completely vanished. Jasmine returned from the kitchen a moment later, carrying a steaming mug of chamomile tea. She handed it to him, the ceramic warm and solid against his weathered hands. He took a slow, deliberate sip, letting the familiar heat ground him in the present moment. He looked past her, toward the hallway where the solid brass deadbolt gleamed faintly in the dim light. The house was secure. The tree-lined streets outside were quiet, settling in for the night. The frozen counter, the frantic demands, the dark web shadows, none of it had crossed his physical threshold. The bricks held. The locks held. His mind held. "The house is quiet, Jazz," he said softly, his voice carrying the steady weight of a man who knew his own ground. "Just the way it should be." Jasmine sat in the chair opposite him, resting her hands in her lap. The evening light caught the silver in her hair. "It always is, Sam," she replied, her tone a quiet anchor to the reality he cherished. Samuel smiled, taking another slow sip of his tea. The digital world could spin cast its artificial panic, but his sanctuary remained entirely untouched. He closed his eyes, listening to the soft, familiar hum of the refrigerator and the distant rustle of the oak tree against the window pane. The phantom was gone. He rested as a confident, peaceful guardian of his home, completely at peace in his safe, independent life.